Hello everyone, as promised I've got Derek Supreme Brinkman here. It's been a while since I've done an interview with the team, but finally we managed to pin you down. It's been like a month? It's more than enough. The people want more interviews. Everyone keeps asking me. It does. That's like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Long enough. And we're going to chat about Shards Online and what's been happening, and hopefully get some, not spoilers so much, but some sneak peeks and, you know, that sort of thing. So, hello. How is everything going?
Everything is awesome. You know, the whole post-Kickstarter era has just been really nice for us because we've been able to just get back to developing, you know, put our heads down and get back to really hammering on the game. During Kickstarter is a strange beast because it just consumes you. When you're running a Kickstarter, you pretty much do nothing but things related to the Kickstarter. And so, and even the team members, you know, I was running the Kickstarter, but I had to constantly get help from the team members as well. And so, you know, now that that's over and we're back, you know, and we have our milestone schedules and we're having our meetings and we're doing our design discussions, it's just like, it really feels good to get back to like the reason why we're doing this in the first place.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so that's been great. I think every interview you've done, you've seen an update on The Office. I'll give you a little kind of 360 here.
Hello everyone.
Hi guys.
People hiding.
And then we got a bit of snow here. I don't know how the light's going to do, if it'll adjust or not, but we posted a picture on Twitter of the beautiful snow landscape outside the office.
Yes, and the lake being frozen.
We were actually ice skating on the lake for lunch yesterday.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I showed my wife because I showed her that video of you jumping in the lake, and I said, "Remember that lake you jumped into? That's it now."
Yeah, it's actually really cool. You know, even though we are based out of a house, you know, we have the entire lower level of this house.
Yeah.
And so it feels like a professional space, but we get the added bonus of having a lake outside.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really cool. It's like, I'm looking forward to the summertime where, you know, at lunch we'll take the boat out.
That'd be cool.
Like, how's that for a lunch break, you know?
Yeah. Picnic on the water.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. We're happy with the current setup down here.
Oh yeah, it's a nice space. You know,
I absolutely love our conference room table. I mean, the thing is just massive.
Yeah.
You know, it came with like 8 chairs, and it's just like
they look comfy chairs. They look like boardroom chairs.
Yeah, it's very official.
It looks like it's come from a bank office or something.
Actually, I got it from some startup company in Arlington, so on Craigslist for like $200.
Nice.
So I felt like I was stealing it from him because that table's probably worth like $800.
Yeah. Well, if he's gonna sell it for that, you might as well.
Well, anyways, so yeah, I mean things are good in that respect. You know,
cool.
It feels good to just be back at it.
Yeah. Being able to actually, like you said, develop rather than you know, sell yourselves.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I like talking up the game and, you know, doing the PR stuff. It's a lot of fun, but it really does soak up the development time.
Yeah, so momentum takes a lot of work to put into in keeping that momentum. So
for sure. Yeah.
And that's why, obviously, like you said, when the Kickstarter ended, you were going to end up going a bit quiet while you worked. You actually got to it, so that's why I've kind of prodded for these interviews, because it helps people know that you're alive.
Yeah, we're still going.
Cool. So yeah, what's any fun updates for us? Something interesting?
Well, so, you know, I talked a little bit about it in the community roundtable. Basically, we have a couple of priorities happening at the same time right now. The main priority, mostly for the engineers, is getting the server into the hands of our pre-alpha admins.
Cool.
And so there's a lot of work and preparation that goes into that. A lot of the stuff that we did pre-Kickstarter was like, make it work, get it done, you know, show it off. And you know, one of the downsides to having that kind of approach is that you kind of had a tendency to like kind of leave to-dos in there. You know what I mean? Like things that need to get cleaned up or rewritten or just kind of done the right way. And so a lot of the process of getting these servers out to the players is like, we don't want to give them our gameplay code in its current state because it's not quite ready for people to start modding it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that we're doing is just making the code ready for the modders.
Cool.
Because not only are we going to let them start running the servers, but the moment we do that, we're also going to open it up to modding.
Nice.
And that's kind of the big motivation for getting our pre-alpha admins, getting people running servers before we even hit alpha. It's really kind of brave, but at the same time, it's critical to our success because the proof is in the pudding. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What we're saying with this game is it's going to be awesome having players run their own servers and communities running their own servers and moderating their own worlds. And so the only way to show that and to really sell that concept is to actually have it working and having communities with their servers up and running before we even hit alpha.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like I've seen a lot of questions of people saying to you, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And your reply, rightly so to a degree, is, yeah, you'll be able to do it yourself. You don't need us to worry about it. You'll be doing that. And
well,
then,
it's actually interesting too because a lot of the questions that people have, can we do this? Can we do that? Are doable even with just the phase 1 of our modding.
Cool.
And so we talk about the phases of modding. The first phase of modding is basically gameplay modifications, right? So you're not creating new assets. You're still working with the worlds and the mobs and the equipment that we give you, but you can change the way those objects interact with each other and the way the players interact with the world. Cool. And there's millions of ways you can do that, but basically you're defining or changing the behaviors of things in the world. And so that really allows you to do lots and lots of stuff right off the bat. When you start getting into later phases where you're actually allowed to bring in like custom assets, that's where like you're actually creating your own worlds.
Yeah.
But so one of the limitations of phase 1 that we're going to be working on shortly after we've got this thing into people's hands is the UI modding, which is allowing you to change the user interface on the clients. Cool. Because all of our modding right now is really focused on the gameplay and the actual rules of the game, the AI, the behaviors, and that's all server side. Then there's this other aspect of that, which is like the client side modding. So that, like, let's say you want to have a custom hotbar or something. That won't be available on phase 1. That's one of those things that'll be coming phase 2 and beyond.
Yeah.
And so, but
I can see it now. Really... A wee tartan monkey UI.
It does feel good though to see that like a lot of the questions people are saying, can I do this, can I do that, are actually going to be doable with a phase 1.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I would say you're not giving yourself an easy task by, everything you're saying is amazing, and to me, I think, geez, that's a lot of work. But
well, when this game was, the idea was first made, modding, the ability for players to change the way the game works was so central and so core to the idea of the game that every decision that we've made has had that kind of in mind.
Okay.
Like it drives every decision we make. And so when you say, oh, it's hard to make it so that players can mod the game, it's not if that's the way you build it from the very beginning. And so. I mean, the actual process of creating a game obviously is not easy. But as long as you have a certain concept or principle in mind and your decisions are driven by that principle, then it just happens naturally throughout development.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if you have that, if that's the backbone, you're not going to add anything that won't work with that. Or if you do, you'll make it so it does work with that.
Yeah, that's where you put the to-do in the code in the comments. So, fix this later.
So, I mean, you said you were doing a few major things all at once. So obviously the big thing is modding and admin stuff. So what's the likes of Austin, who we met in the last interview, doing? How's he getting on with that?
The world builders, the artists on the team are focused on Celador, which is our first alpha map.
Yeah.
Uran, our pre-alpha map, is cool, but it's dwarfed by Celador. Like,
so I like to
actually, we're gonna do a little bit of a show and tell, I think, and I'll run during the show and tell across, and you'll see. I mean, it just feels huge. I get lost in the map, and I know where everything is.
Yeah.
Um,
That
so
gets me. That makes me happy.
it feels great to finally have that kind of like expanse,
Yeah.
like that just kind of large world to work with. And so that's the artist's priority right now. In addition to that, there is some other engineering things going on. Like we want to always make sure that we are moving forward in terms of gameplay. So yeah, a lot of our time as programmers is kind of soaked up with this getting it ready for players.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we always kind of do these like little tasks here and there to make sure that we're moving forward with like actual gameplay progress. And so the resource system is the first one that we're tackling.
Cool.
From a systems perspective. Bruce, aka Logris, he's like half designer, half programmer. He's not really involved in the the player-run server side of things, and so his time is still focused on gameplay and always is. Cool. And he's been like craft king. So he spent a lot of time prototyping things. We have a lot of prototypes of crafting systems in the game right now. And so he's kind of fleshing it out so we know what kind of stuff we need to build to support him. And then he's kind of moving forward and just kind of like prototyping every single crafting system that we're going to need.
Yeah, I like the crafting side. That's, going back to the roots of Shards Online, Ultima Online. That's how I made my first million, was resource collecting, selling, building, etc.
Exactly. So you kind of take those things and you add them all up, and that's the kind of whole of what we're doing. We kind of operate on priorities, and so it's like artist priority, sell a door, programmer priority, pre-alpha admin, secondary priority, resource gathering and crafting.
Cool.
And that's kind of the whole thing right there.
Cool. So yeah, that's the crux of what's going on, where you're trying to get all these things. And I'm assuming in theory they'll all come together right at the exact same time and be perfect, like working together.
Always. Yeah. In fact, we're going to skip over alpha and go straight to beta.
Awesome. I'll insert a wee line. That is not true. No, that's cool. That sounds like obviously you're very busy. And we did have a playtest not too long ago.
Yeah.
Technically, I suppose I can't really talk about that, can I?
Not anything that you haven't seen. Yeah. It's one of those things that we decided to do. And there were some questions about it. Why are we going back under NDA in pre-alpha? And so, when I answered that question, when I addressed it with the community, was the question is not why are we going back under NDA, because every game in pre-alpha is under NDA.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've reached alpha stage or early access, sure, you release the NDA, you kind of, release the hound, so to speak. But in pre-alpha, generally, you're under NDA. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, and but the reason why we didn't have an NDA when we were doing our Kickstarter campaign was because we needed people to talk.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do that is to just give them what you got. Just say, check it out. Here's what we built. And so we had a lot of good reasons for not having an NDA when we were doing play tests during Kickstarter, and just in our kind of marketing period. But now that we're back to development, we're back heads down, we're going to be showing the play testers some things that are just not quite to be ready to be talked about. They're the people who have bought in the play tester program and have decided to support the project on that level are really, really excited about the concept. And so these people can handle very broken things because they know that it's a process.
Yeah, it's a test.
Yeah, but when you kind of think of things from a marketing perspective, I've learned a lot about marketing since I first started this thing, because up until Shards Online, I never did a drop of marketing. I was just a game dev.
Yeah.
And somebody who's not sold on the concept of a game yet, you don't want to show that person something unfinished.
Yeah.
Because they just don't. You get such a little amount of their time. You get like that kind of brief flash of their attention.
Yeah.
And if they see something that kind of turns them off, then they're gone and they're on to something else.
Yeah, and I've had that with a lot of games.
Yeah, and so since our pre-alpha is very much pre-alpha, it's not quite ready to be played as a standalone game. It just makes sense for us to not have people talking about it yet.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. No,
and
that's
so
understandable, as many games do.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it's, although there's the NDA, you're still, you know, you don't go into specifics, but you're very open about what is done and what is being done and the types
yeah.
of things that are being tested, and
Hmm.
and while you might not speak specifics or or anything, you are still very, very open for that, and
We
I think
are, yeah.
that's appreciated right across the board.
Yeah, you kind of have to like all of your operations happen in two worlds. You have your community world where you're interacting with people who are already excited about the project, and then you talk about your marketing side of things where you're talking to people who are not sold yet. You know, and so yes, you can be very open with your community because they are already kind of bought into the concept. Like they understand Shards Online and how awesome it's going to be. And so you don't have to be afraid to talk about these things. And the discussion that you and I are having, this is more of a community-focused discussion. Like this
Yeah,
is meant for people who are already kind of excited.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not really a good marketing tool because somebody who's not sold on the idea is not going to spend a half hour watching an interview, right?
no, no, yeah, and that
And,
I've always said, these interviews are more about letting people see the team behind, and that's why I've been aiming to pick on all the others that are sitting beside you,
yeah.
just so people meet the team, and it helps. It's funny because I always refer to Shards Online. We made Kickstarter. We did this because from the very beginning we've always felt as we're part of.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
We as part of being, thankfully, I'm thankful that I'm part of the playtester, level. That I like to feel like we're helping shape,
Heck
not
yeah.
quite shape it, but helping you guys know what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, and it's also we have our pre-alpha playtester forum,
Yeah,
and so that part is kind of under the umbrella of the NDA, so you can talk all you want in there.
yeah,
And so it's kind of cool. You still have this group of people that you can talk with and kind of share kind of your impressions on how things are going.
yeah.
And so that's a place to talk about that kind of stuff.
Cool. So yeah, that's really cool. So you were talking about a wee bit of a show and tell. We could perhaps sneak into that.
Well, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the kind of the plan for. I want to get into a little bit about the plan for our pre-alpha playtesters.
All right. Okay. No, that's cool.
So one of the things that we had mentioned, I had mentioned in the letter I'd written a month ago or so, was that we want to get regularly scheduled playtests
Yes.
up and running.
Yes.
We were going to have an announcement before the end of this month about that. And so we're getting ready to make that announcement. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with every other week playtests.
Okay.
And so the reasoning for that is, because we're so focused on pre-alpha 2 and getting these player-run servers running, from week to week, the game build doesn't change all that much because it's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so an every other week schedule kind of makes sense for that. When we get to pre-alpha 2, testing is going to change quite a bit, especially since players are going to be running servers and they'll be able to just leave their servers up.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be kind of cool to see that when we get to that stage. But for now, we're looking at that kind of system. The other thing that I think is really exciting to talk about, and I'll be brief about it, is we are working on, when we release a new development roadmap, we're inserting a release in between pre-alpha 2 and alpha 1.
Right.
And the reason for that is alpha 1 has Celador, pre-alpha 2 is only URAN.
Okay.
Okay. But we want to get our pre-alpha playtesters into Celador before we hit alpha because we need them to test it.
Of course. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and so internally we're calling it pre-alpha 2.5. It's really pre-alpha 3, I guess you would call it, right? What it is it's going to be one more major pre-alpha release before we get to alpha.
Okay.
And that is going to be kind of opening the floodgates for Celador to actually let players in there.
Can't wait.
And I'm not going to get into too much detail because we're going to talk about the community roundtable, but I can basically say that the three things we want you to be able to do is gather resources, craft all kinds of things, place houses down and or build houses, decorate your house,
Nice.
and also along with that would be kind of the combat we've already established from pre-alpha.
Cool.
And so, like, you put all that stuff together, and now you can run around Celador and actually have a lot of fun.
That sounds like the basics of of it, of shards. That's
Yeah, it's like taking Alpha 1, which is Celador in its entirety minus Petra City, but the whole map minus Petra City, of
yeah,
course, and taking out all of the bits of like points of interest, right? So you have the ruins, you have the graveyard, you have the village, you have the waterfall.
Black Forest.
Carve out the area in the middle, like the main area, and that's where players will be able to run around in
Cool.
that Pre-Alpha 2.5.
That's
It's
cool.
going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell of that area.
Cool.
Let's
So
see
we know what
how
we're in for.
good. Let's see how good screen share is going to work.
Yeah, I'm always dubious about these things.
Yeah, I mean, you may get a really bad frame rate, but at least you guys can get like little bits and pieces.
We'll
of,
just say we took pictures and it's
what we're
just
up to.
stills of it.
Wonder if there's a better way. See, I didn't have any screenshots ready for you. Let's try the screen share and just see how
Yeah.
it goes. All right.
Oh. Hey, I can see.
You can see.
I can see it, yeah.
So we're actually standing at the gate to Petra Village.
Okay.
These gates are locked at night. The mayor actually comes out and locks the gates at night.
That's pretty cool.
But of course, the graveyard, when the graveyard is finally in, the undead will be at night will spawn and start marching towards town, and they'll kind of beat on the gate.
Love it.
And so in the morning, the gate may or may not have been completely destroyed and the town overrun by the undead. It's kind of cool.
So is that, just out of curiosity, so there's going to be sort of events that happen similar to that? Sometimes, the undead will get through the gate and the place will be
Yeah.
overrun and stuff. So there are going
Yeah.
to be sort of AI events, if you know what I mean.
It'll be sort of a little bit dictated by phases of the moon. Like the undead gets stronger as it gets closer to a full moon.
That sounds cool.
It's kind of cool.
I've never seen a wolf before.
It won't be the same invasion every day, because that's really boring.
Yeah.
There'll be some nights where the undead don't even make it, don't even leave the graveyard.
Yeah.
They're like, let's just kind of hang out and not attack today.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the jump command. Since you're going to get a really bad frame rate, it'll be a
Cool.
lot better this way instead of watching me walk at 1
Yeah.
frame per second. So I'm just kind of jumping around. You can see we've added a wolf
Yeah.
there.
That looks like a really nice wolf, actually.
Well, so, full disclosure, being in pre-alpha, we are going to be taking advantage of some of the assets that are available to us on the asset store.
Yeah.
And this app happens to be one of them. One of the things that we plan to do, and we haven't gotten to the wolf yet, is we're going to do a full pass on the texture, the animations, maybe some work to the model. Like, we're going to make these assets our own. We're not just going to drop them in as the asset store asset.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it's pre-alpha. It's fine. We're just using the asset store assets to kind of help us, flesh things out.
A placeholder.
Placeholder, yeah. It's basically a placeholder. And so we're just kind of hopping along here.
Cool.
This part of the map here is on the map. It's the plains, I think it's called.
Okay.
And so this area of the map is mostly intended for player housing. A lot of kind of creatures
Open-ish
just wander around. Lots of open space.
Yeah. And side of the roads for homes to be on.
Exactly. Here is the Dead Gate.
Oh yeah, we saw that.
Which
The
I know you guys
round
might have seen screenshots of it. It came out just amazing.
Oh, the chains are moving now.
Yeah.
They weren't moving before.
Probably at 1 frame per second.
But no, I remember during the round table, I think it was, you were saying you planned on animating the Dead Gate. So the chains weren't moving before, and now obviously they're moving, so that's cool.
Yeah. So we're kind of coming into the Black Forest here.
Oh, cool.
I
That's what
believe.
when we had the interview with Austin, that's what he was working on.
Yeah. This is a bridge where the roots have kind of grown together
That
and
looks
crossed
awesome.
over the river.
He's done a good job.
Yeah, this was Tiffany and Austin combined.
Oh, was it? Okay, well they've both done a very
Yeah.
good job. Oh, there's a giant filthy rat. They're new.
Yeah. So helps you kind of get a concept for just how big the
Yeah.
place is, you know? I mean, you really do, like I said, I get lost here. It
Yeah, I
just kind of
like
goes
that. You know, with Uran, obviously, it is the pre-alpha map, and there's a sense
on.
of there's a road right round it, and there's quite a linear way you can run round it. There's ways you
Yeah.
don't have to. But this, oh, there's a snake too. Um, this feels like certainly you can go off the beaten track, basically. That's
Yes.
that's the sort of
Oh, yeah.
sense you feel.
Whoa, where did I end up?
Okay, that was you
I
disappeared.
don't know where I ended up. I just went back to 0, 0 because I don't know where the heck I was.
That was an interesting plane of reality.
Yeah.
I like all the
We've also
flowers. Oh, there's
kind of
Petra.
fleshed out the barrier around Petra, so you can see
Cool.
it goes all the way around now.
And glows underneath too. That's quite cool.
Yeah. And then we have the upper plains area. I'm kind of moving really fast now.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the bridge, because
Just out of curiosity, will there be the ability to sail on the river? Just
So
that's just a
boats is
curiosity.
one of those kind of like after alpha
Yeah,
things.
but that is
So
something
we've
you've thought
planned-
about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's part of the plan. It's just down the road,
Yeah.
down the river. It's down the
Yeah. Further down the river, or further upstream.
river. So this side here is where you'll actually get to the upper plains.
Cool.
And so also more room for houses over here. You can see
Yep.
there's actually a house here.
Hey.
The interesting thing about the upper plains is that it'll be a lot less protected by guards.
Cool.
So
That's gonna be
if you
your-
happen to have houses out here, it'll be a little bit more Wild West.
Yeah.
It just goes on.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, already we
There's
would have.
also the Great Wall. We have a placeholder for the Great Wall in place
Cool.
up here somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's on the picture, isn't it? Yeah, the
Yeah.
art, the sort of artist.
Here it is.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so the other side of the Great Wall is the Wildlands, which is a expansion area. Like we actually don't plan to have the Wildlands. Like you'll never be able to get to the Wildlands in Alpha.
Okay, yeah. So that's
on
sort
the
of
other side of this wall.
that's the plan for that's your further development after.
Yeah. Celador is actually larger than what it'll be at Alpha.
Yeah.
But-
But no, I mean, compared to Uran, we would have been backwards and forwards a couple times.
Yeah,
based on what
exactly.
you're showing.
And I'm jumping around. I mean, walking it just takes so much longer.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we kind of have working is, I remember I mentioned that we're messing around with the resource system.
Yeah.
So you can actually chop at trees with a weapon.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to take my battle axe. Let's see if this works. Now, this is a prototype or it's in development, so let's see. I'm kind of
nice.
chopping away at this tree here.
And it's got to be harvesting thing at the bottom.
Yeah. So I'm gathering wood,
Nice.
2 wood.
I remember during Kickstarter, or was it in between the Kickstarters, there was a crafting trial
Mm-hmm.
with building a fireplace when you did cooking as well. That was a while ago.
Yeah, Bruce is always prototyping stuff.
Yeah.
We work in a very iterative manner. You can see the trees
Oh,
chopped
nice.
down.
And will that how long does that, is there plans in making that respawn?
We have to
and-
tweak it. Right now I think it takes 10 minutes to respawn, but it'll probably be longer than that when we get to the game. But that's just the way we have it right now.
Oh yeah. So that you chop it down and it eventually shoots back up.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we want wood to be basically a fairly endless resource. Like I feel like it would be really kind of weird if the map was so harvested that the Black Forest was just stumps everywhere.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be very interesting. So it's going to take some tweaking. That's what the pre-alpha playtesters are going to help us
Yeah.
with.
To get the balance
like
right.
Yeah. So interesting stuff about the way we're going to do the resources. You can use your weapon to chop at the trees, but when we have the kind of damage, the equipment damage stuff turned on, you'll actually be damaging your weapon by using it to chop trees. So you'll
Yeah.
much want to use you'd rather use like a cheaper like lumber axe to chop trees because if it gets destroyed, you're not losing one of your weapons.
Oh yeah, you're one of your good weapons potentially.
And also, some axes will be more efficient at chopping. Like you'll be able to gather faster with certain axes.
Cool.
It'll be a combination of what axe are you using, what is your lumberjacking skill. You kind of take those two things together, and that'll determine how quickly you can gather resources. So.
And just out of curiosity, are you intending having special resources? So you might get special ore or special whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into the design, but the way we're doing metal ore is that any rock in the world will have a chance to spawn as metal ore.
Do you want to switch off screen sharing? Because you can see me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so any rock in the world will be able to be kind of have a chance to be some type of metal ore. And what we're going to have are like hot spots. So like a certain area of the map will be hot, which means there'll be a lot of gold there.
Cool.
So like if you find gold, you have a higher chance of finding more gold in that area, just to kind of make it more interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and then once you've harvested all the gold out of it, it'll just kind of go back to regular plain rock.
So yeah, that could potentially be random places. If you find gold, you find a gold vein until it runs out, and then could pop up some other rock.
Yeah, we want to make it. Our goal through all this, a lot of our inspirations come from UO Neverwinter Nights, and every time we design a system, like the resource system, we want to do it better.
Yeah.
Right? Like we always want to make improvements. Like we say, okay, how did it work in UO? How did it work in this game? And then how can we make it better than that? Yeah.
Take everything people moaned about and wipe that out. Basically.
Yeah. In UO, trees didn't ever get chopped down. So you'd have to like run out there and try and find the trees that had resources. Yeah. It would look like it was a tree, but you would chop it, it would say you can't get any wood. And it's so we made sure that the state of the tree, the visual look of the tree changed so that you actually had that feedback.
So you're not running around just randomly clicking on stuff.
Exactly.
Cool.
And so always looking for ways to kind of improve the design. I'm a big fan of taking what works and improving on it. Instead of completely redesigning things, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. No. You want to improve the wheel, And that's kind of whenever we tackle a new system, we find something as a reference. We pick a game that has done that system really well, and then we say, okay, how can we take that and make it even better?
Yeah, like you said, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. If you have a system that's really good and you think actually we could tweak it and it's going to be 10 times better, then go for it.
It's a really common thing that you see in game design is that people have a tendency to they think they can do it better, and so they design the whole system from scratch from their own head rather than using something as a base.
Yeah.
And you're rolling the dice at that point, because you don't, there's just because it works in your head doesn't mean it works in the game.
Yeah.
So if you take a system that already works, you find a game that did it really well, works really well, then you're starting from something that's already good, instead of trying to build the entire thing from scratch and, kind of hoping that it works out.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I think just in general, it's a good way to approach game design.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, I actually was speaking to someone from Ultima Codex.
Okay.
I think you did an interview with him a while ago.
Kenneth.
Yes. And there was one question, I don't know if you got around to asking you. I asked, is there anything from your previous work, like Ultima Online, that you really wouldn't want in Shards Online? Is there anything you can think of that you thought, no, I just don't want it? And vice versa, is there something that you really think we need to make that work, and as you said, make it better? Making you think.
Yeah, it's funny because you always focus on what things worked in other games. You don't really think about the kind of stuff that didn't work. I guess, when I'm talking about the undead attacking town, it's this cool idea that you have to kind of protect town.
Yeah.
But I go back to, I don't know if you ever played Tabula Rasa.
No, I never played that.
But they had this system where the villages would come under attack and you'd have to defend them, or the cities in Tabula Rasa. And it was great the first couple of times you did it, but then it was the same thing over and over and over again. Every time the city went under attack, it was like the same event.
Yeah.
And that gets really boring really fast. And I remember playing that and going, man, that's not a good game design, because you're making somebody do the same thing over and over and over again every single day.
Yeah, it becomes a grind.
Yeah, you don't ever want you want things to be dynamic, and that's kind of some of the things that we've learned from games like Ultima Online, EVE Online, and other games, is that you build the systems so that there's a million different outcomes, so that when the event takes place, there's 20 different ways it could take place. It could play out. In Tapia Rasa, there was one or the other. Either the town got overrun, or the players fended off the attackers. That was it. There was only 2 outcomes, and that's what made it so boring, right? If there was 10 different ways for that event to take place, well, now you've made the game twice as or 5 times as fun.
Yeah.
Or at least extended the playability of that event by 5, right? By 5 times. And so
keeps people guessing.
Yeah, it kind of goes both ways. Like, you see games that do that poorly, and then you see games that do it well. And you try to find the balance of not redoing the things that were done wrong and doing the things that were done right.
Yeah, that's a good answer, actually.
Yeah, it came to mind just because we were talking about the Undead Invasion, and when I was thinking about that design, I was going back to how the invasion in Tapia Rasa got so boring so fast. It was so much fun the first couple times you did it, and then it was like, all right, this is the same thing, over and over.
Just one thing, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, obviously I'm not planning on running my own shard. It's not something I would feel comfortable doing. So I will most likely be wanting to play on official Citadel. I'm a vanilla player. I like to play whatever's official. So I'm just curious, what's your thoughts on the official sort of rule sets? Is there anything you think is a must that you would love to see make sure that is happening?
Well, the official rule set is the game, right?
Yeah.
When someone runs their own server, they can even launch the server with the default rules, and they're playing the official rules. And so, the way we're building the game, the way we built URAN is a mini Shards Online, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a taste of what the larger game would be like. So when you think about, okay, how is the game going to feel? How is the game going to play? It's a bigger URAN.
Okay.
It's got a lot more features. It's got a lot more systems. It's got a lot more things to do. When it comes down to it, our core principles, the kind of things that drive us stay the same. Is the game immersive? Is there anything that's taking the player out of the game and making them realize that they're just sitting there staring at a screen? That's when it gets down to it. The immersive focus and the focus on dynamic interactions and the focus on multiple outcomes of possible events that could take place in the world. Those are the things that just make the game interesting and replayable. We're not a huge AAA studio. When you talk about a studio that has 40 people that are writing quests, you can make enough quests to keep people interested for months on end, right? When you talk about a small team like us, that's not the way our game is going to have its replayability. Our game will have replayability through replayable systems. Systems that you can play over and over again, and the reason why you want to play them over and over again
is the different outcomes.
Because they have a potential for different outcomes. And so whenever we build a system or a piece of content, we always have to have that in mind, is how replayable is this? The amount of time we spend on this has to be less than the amount of time a player will enjoy it. It's the opposite with quest-based systems, right? Because you could see, 2 designers spend 5 days on a quest. A player finishes it in 20 minutes, right? Or whatever, an hour. And so it's the reverse proportion, right? They spent 3 days on it, a player enjoyed it for a half hour. We need to go the other way, right? We spend 3 days on it and players enjoy it for a week. And so it's a completely opposite approach to game development, and it's one of the main reasons why smaller studios are afraid to make online games, because they go, there's no way we can make quest content large, enough quest content to keep people interested in the game for as long as possible, But then when you look at the kind of online MMO-ish games that have pulled it off with small teams, you can look to games like DayZ and Rust and Terraria and games like that. it was replayable systems. It wasn't quest after quest after quest. They came up with stuff that was fun and can be done over and over, and that's the stuff that makes the game successful.
Oh, yeah.
And so we understand that, and that's where our focus is.
Cool. That's good. I'm been a fan of the whole Shards Online concept for a long time. Despite, like I said, obviously a big part of Shards Online is the modability, etc., etc. And again, that's not something I'll feel comfortable meddling with. I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form in these kind of things. I'm barely, and I'm probably not even a beginner, let alone anything else. But what I loved about it was the feeling of having a game that reminds me of what I've played in the past. And I know we keep mentioning it, but Ultima Online was a huge part. Played it on and off for 13 years, and I'm sure it was a big part of your life as well.
For sure.
And it's part of the reason you're here now. So when I first tried Shards Online during the first Kickstarter campaign, I really did feel like, this is how I feel Ultima Online should have been. If it went further, if it was allowed to progress, and that's what got me excited about it, and that's why I'm glad I'm invested in it. So, it's
interesting because it's not just we're making the new Ultima Online. We have the same core principles that the original designers of Ultima Online had. Times have changed, but the principles of game design don't change all that much when you're talking about this kind of game. I think sometimes you can look to the older games, and they did a better job of these kind of world simulation immersive experiences than modern games do.
Yeah.
And you can point to a lot of good single player immersive game world experience games, but in the multiplayer online world, it's really diverged away from that and gone towards just achievement porn, so to speak. Where you gotta get the next level, you gotta get the next achievement, you get the next this, and it's always just going for that next checkbox on your character. So that's why when you play our game, it feels nostalgic of the past, because that was the game design, the prevailing game design theory back then was just build a world, make it fun, and throw the players in.
And let them create their own lives, basically.
Yeah, and that's where we need to get back to, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's what it was about for me. It wasn't a case of you've landed on the shore, now move to the cave, now move to the castle, and that's what Ultima Online did. You were plopped in the middle of nowhere, with a bunch of strangers running around. You didn't know who was going to help you and who wasn't, and that's you had freedom to learn the hard way, and meet the good times with the bad times. So it's good.
I think a proof of a good online game is there's a game where you played for hours, let's say 3 or 4 hours, and you never actually did anything, but you still had a blast. Right? Yeah. Like you went to your friend's house, you saw his new rare item that he found in a dungeon, you went over to town and you helped out a newbie, and then you crafted a piece of furniture, but you didn't actually level, you didn't finish a quest, you didn't get an achievement, right? You just you existed in that world and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I remember those days of hanging by Blacksmith or West Britain Bank and in Britain in Ultima Online, and that's what made Ultima Online was the community and the people that you hung around with, that you met on your day-to-day business. Yeah. And people would actually just walk, so they bumped into people.
And that's what we're getting back to.
Yeah, and that's what I love. So one question that I've asked everyone is, out of the stretch goals that we met and reached and everything, what was your favourite? Are you doing exactly what they've all done? I was wondering if you try and do it slyly.
So I actually do know the answer. I don't have to go to the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
Because the answer is, and it's actually kind of subtle, because what I was really happy that we hit was the $100,000 goal, and it wasn't because we got the extra map. Of course, it's going to be awesome that we're going to have the catacombs at Alpha, but the fact that we are going to have clusters is the real bit of that goal that's kind of underneath it, right? Because if we have 2 different maps, you have to have a way to go from one to the other. And the only way for that to exist is by us having cluster support.
Yeah.
And so, cluster support is not only going to allow travel between Celador and the catacombs, but it's also going to allow travel between other alternate reality versions of Celador.
Yeah.
We don't have instances in the sense that if there's no players in it, the whole thing comes down. Like an instance in a traditional sense is like a dungeon that only exists when there's players in there hunting. But we have kind of instances in the sense that there'll be like 10 Celadors running in one cluster, and because in alpha that's our only map for housing, and so you'll need to have enough Celadors to support your player base. But what you'll do is our official servers will give each copy of Celador its own name, and each one of those copies of Celador is an alternate reality. It is a real living, breathing world that exists.
Yeah.
It's not something that just pops up and goes away. It's there.
Yeah.
But they are, now that we have that stretch goal met, you'll be able to travel between those in alpha. And so that wasn't originally planned for the first alpha release, and that's really, I think that's the most exciting thing to me.
Yeah, so I'll be able to, for example, jump from one Celador to the next Celador if I saw the need.
That's what the Dead Gate will be for, actually. The Dead Gate is for traveling to alternate realities of Celador.
That's cool. I like.
So what about... it'll be dead when the game first launches, when we first hit alpha.
Yeah.
And there'll be a kind of process that the inhabitants of that shard will have to do to reactivate the gate.
Cool. And what about out of the stretch goals? Which one were you most disappointed you didn't get to?
Oh, now I'm gonna have to look. Let's see. Good question. I think the merchant hirelings are really kind of important to the game because of the fact that, in order to rely on a player economy, there needs to be a nice, easy way for players to trade goods, and you don't have to expect them to stand there and sell them physically. And so I really would have liked to have the hirelings, the merchant hirelings, in at Alpha 1. It would have helped get the kind of wheels of the economy churning earlier. I suspect those merchant hirelings will be in one of the Alpha releases shortly after Alpha 1.
Cool.
And so while it won't be there when we first enter Alpha, we will get it before we reach Beta, so that'll be good. But I do want to really, economies are one of those things that you really have to tweak through playtesting. You can't just like put it out there and expect it to work the first time. And so anything that's going to help get those wheels turning is going to help us work out the bugs and make sure it works.
Yeah.
So that's one of those ones that I'll be pushing for shortly after we get to Alpha.
Cool. Yeah, that whole concept really interests me, and they're like living and breathing. The AI basically, they go about their lives.
A working in-game economy is kind of like the holy grail of game design.
Yeah.
Very few games actually make it work in a sustainable manner. Economies have a tendency to work really well in the first 6 months or so of the game's lifetime, but then it tends to spiral out of control for one reason or another. That you can look to a couple of games that really pulled it off, like EVE Online is a great example.
Yeah.
It's an extremely difficult thing to tackle because you have to balance the whole, hey, you're going to lose items because items can't last forever, and the kind of disappointment of players with the thought of losing those items. You have to kind of balance that with the fact that you need those items to go away, otherwise you'll end up with just a broken economy.
Yeah. Lots of money, lots of items, and nowhere to put them.
One of the interesting things about the way EVE does it is, when a ship blows up, when you blow up a ship in EVE, not all of the items go away. Some of them get kind of like launched into space, like they're not destroyed. And so that helps players, they don't lose everything, they lose something. And then you have the insurance system, which also kind of helps you pay for your losses a little bit. So they have some interesting ways to kind of like, make people feel good about the fact that they're losing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you've
And
got to
so,
get the right money sink versus items and whatnot
yeah,
sorted. So.
exactly. And a money sink is only a good one if the players don't realize that it's there.
Yeah, yeah. If they
And
don't realize they're
that's the
spending
ultimate
it.
challenge.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm conscious that you've got other things to do today.
Sure.
So, but thank you for today. It's been fun.
No problem. I love talking about
Yeah,
cards.
yeah,
So,
I bet. And I look forward to hearing about the next playtest and roundtable and all that stuff. So yeah, well,
yeah. Said actually, we're working to get the event calendar up by the end of this month. So
by the end of the month. Cool. Oh,
there
we're
will
losing you a little bit.
be a large announcement before.
Hello? Did lose you there a
we
wee
lost
bit.
got
Yeah.
bad connection.
What was that? By the end of the month for the event calendar.
By the end of the month, we'll have an announcement with
Okay.
our event calendar.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, thank you very much. And
No problem.
we'll no doubt chat on the forums and the IRC,
sure.
which everyone
Yep.
should come and join if you're interested. Just throw that out
Yep, IRC is awesome.
there. Yep. Cool. Well, thank you again, and
All right.
have a great day.
Talk to you later, Dusty.
Bye.